Hi, in this video our primary function is going to be to show you the rectangular pattern tool as well as the hole tool. So we're going to make a series of holes. We're going to do it in a pattern that's rectangular, kind of an array. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start a new sketch, and basically what I want is on this surface right here, I want a bunch of holes. I want them laid out in a repeating pattern. So we're going to start this new sketch on here, and I am going to use the point tool. Okay, and we're not going to worry about dimensions all that much here for the sake of time. Now, I could sit here and make points and dimension them all over the place to get all the holes where I want, but if I'm going to have some uniformity to the spacing, etc., where it's a pattern, I can just use the pattern tool, and that'll be a lot faster. Now, this sketch that I'm on, this surface, there's actually no geometry except for the point that I created. Any of the edges or things in the background, they are not on my sketch. And when I go to use a tool, like extrude or hole or revolve, I need to select geometry. That's all part of the sketch that I'm creating right now. So I'm going to project geometry, just because I know how to use the rectangular pattern tool a little bit. And I'm going to bring on a line that in this case for my orientation is vertical and one that's horizontal. And it doesn't matter at all what line, I just need to project a line. Okay, I could even use the line tool and just create a couple lines, but now I have those to reference. Okay, so now I'm going to use the rectangular pattern tool. I'm going to turn that on. I can turn the project geometry tool off. There you go. I'm going to create a rectangular pattern, and it wants to know what is it that you're going to pattern. What's the geometry? This is already selected. It's waiting for me to select the geometry to pattern. So it's going to be the point. Okay? And now it wants to know what direction. So I'm going to choose a direction. Flip that. And I can go, I'll go this way. Okay? And it automatically just picked a direction vertically, whether it was up or down. If it went the wrong direction, I can flip directions. But that went in the right direction in essence. I have more space here. I'm just going to lay out this pattern going that way. And then this number here is going to tell me how many times do I want to repeat the pattern, including the original iteration. So I now have 2. I could change it to 3, to 4, etc. I want it at 2. Okay. Now I'm not going to say OK because I want to now take what I've got and turn it into an array. So I have kind of rows and columns. And so I'm going to choose a second direction. This one's going to be the horizontal line. And I'm going to go the other direction this time though. I'm going to fill all this. So I'm going to flip direction, and I'm going to add. Let's see how far 10 goes. Almost. Looks like I've got room for maybe one more. Let's go to 11. That looks pretty nice. Not dimensioned, I know, but it's kind of evenly filling up the space, and we're just going to go ahead and accept that. Okay, so there you go. I just used the rectangular pattern tool. I took a geometry, in this case a point, and I basically copied it in 2 different directions. You could use only one or the other. You didn't have to do both, but I did it in 2 different directions. So I took one point, and I gave myself, 2 rows of points. And then I gave myself 11 columns of points, right? If you think columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so it was really fast. Now I'm going to take all these points, and I'm going to make Inventor kind of drill holes at each of those points. So we're going to go ahead and say finish sketch. Those points now get used as the geometry, the locations, kind of the center marks for holes. And right here, I'm in the 3D modeling tab and in modify, kind of right next to fill it, I've got hole. If I choose the hole tool right now, there's no points that are selected. Basically, Inventor thinks I want to drill a hole at every single point. Okay, so let's just watch. I'm going to select hole. Boom. Auto-selected all the holes, all those points. I see a profile of a hole. And I can start playing around with the hole menu. I'm not going to get into the detail of all the different types of holes. These are kind of just a straight hole. A counterbore, countersink, is down here, a spot face. Anyway, we could spend more time talking about this. But right now, let's just think in general about the rectangular pattern tool and kind of initiating the hole. So I can change the diameter of that opening. Let's make it maybe a little bigger. You can see that they're all being adjusted. What if I didn't want holes at every single one of those points? Well, I could, I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'm going to select individual points, notice that the 3 that I selected, let me zoom in a little bit, are light blue, and the ones that I didn't select are just black right now on my screen. So with any that are selected, if I hit the hole button, it's going to then create holes only at the selected items. Because I had something selected, it'll assume those are the ones I want to use. Maybe it was wrong. I didn't even intend for those to be selected. They just were. Am I stuck? No. I can hold the control key and I can come in here and start clicking on more, and I can just kind of one at a time add them in. Right? If I accidentally have a hole getting created where I didn't want one, I can again hold the control key and click on one that I want to deselect to turn it off, and I can come in and do it that way. Okay? And if it's really not what I want, I can always hit cancel, close that. I see that I still have some selected not, so I can click in the white to deselect everything, and then I can just hit the hole button again. And now they're all selected. Okay, so you can kind of play around with that with the rectangular pattern tool using points to create locations for holes. And that'll teach something. Okay? One last thing that we should point out is that the pattern tool doesn't have to be done in sketch mode, which is what I had done. The pattern tool can also be used in 3D mode, like where you have that. So let me go back and I'm going to get rid of the hole feature for now. Let's see. Delete. It wants to get rid of the sketch. Sure. Let's do that real quick because it has all of that in there. And let's just make a new sketch, and we'll add 1 point. And finish sketch, and we'll create the hole right there. Just let that be. Okay, so right here we're actually in the 3D model tab. We're kind of in the 3D view mode. I'm not inside a sketch right now, so I'm working with 3-dimensional stuff. And here it looks a little different, but I do have a pattern area. And this one, if you hover, you can see what the name of it is the rectangular pattern tool. It's pretty much the same tool that we just used. So I can choose that tool, and now I can choose a feature instead of like a profile or sketch. I'm going to choose the feature, and it's going to be the hole. Kind of have to move your mouse around. It's wanting to choose different things. There you go. It's very finicky. I'm barely moving my mouse. Okay, so I'm going to choose that. I could also come over here in the browser. It'd be easier and just select the hole. And now I can repeat kind of the direction. So find an edge that shows the direction. It got the right direction for me. I can flip just like before though. Okay, and then I can switch to a second direction if I want to do that, or I could just do one. Remember, you can change the number of iterations. Okay, to repeat that feature. And we'll go ahead and add the second direction. It's starting to go in the opposite direction that I want to go, so I'm going to flip directions, and I think we had done 11 before, right? Kind of zoom out and check that out. Yep, and say OK. While right now it looks like it's just a circle, like a 2D sketch, it's actually the hole feature that's going to get patterned. There you go. So that's another way to use the pattern tool, the rectangular pattern tool.